Okay, we're going to make a connection between maps and ancient Egypt, an egg, and the three pyramids that are so famous. Now, they're supposedly dated to 2500 BC, but there's an artifact in the Nakata Museum at Aswan that is somewhat unique, but not necessarily. And it contains a ostrich egg here that has been decorated. Now, these ostrich eggs that they have found date all the way up through the 1600s as a popular item and became real popular in uh, Britain, in the area of the time. And I'll show you something in a minute here also that's to do with another ostrich egg. An ostrich egg is not quite the same shape as a chicken egg, where a chicken is more pointy on one end and rounded on the other. It's basically symmetrical, but more pointy on one end. This is the full ostrich egg, and the bottom of it's been carved out and all the innards taken out of it and everything, and then taken and carved in a way, and then rubbed with red ochre, like you see in all the red ochre burials that I talked about, and the Canaanites and everything. But this dates to 4000 BC, roughly 1500 years before they say the pyramids were even thought of. And while there's many Ooparts of Egypt and the ancient world, this is an odd one. For it looks like it shows the Nile coming down, and perhaps this is the blurb that comes out to Lake Mueris. It looks like it's in full flooding form, and this cross-hatching here that looks a little snakeskinish perhaps to somebody is actually an ancient depiction of water and the way they would do it. But it's all done with cross-hatches, and then the pyramids are done with straight sideways lines, and it's not the best thing in the world. They go outside the line here and so on, so it's not the most accurate representation of it. See if we can get a little closer in on it here. But I wonder if that's the three pyramids that are there, and that's the delta leading up. Makes kind of sense, and there looks like there's a little scratched cow head here, but it's not well defined, so it may be just a remnant, something like that. The thing that throws this off is, if you know cuneiform writing and stuff, its first depictions were ideograms, which are basically little picture forms that people used, and the picture form for land in the Sumerians and the Egyptians is three little humps. Now, they're little bitty humps and generally shaped like this and not like that. They never look like three pyramids whenever they do them in any of the art. It looks like three little humps. People studying this have always said, well, that's a little weird, because both of those lands don't really have any mountains, and so why would their symbol for lands be mountains? And a lot of people have come up with the idea, and it's just conjecture and you never know, but they originally came from a land of mountains whenever they had come from there. And people talk about Atlantis. People talk about the Caucasus Mountains, where Herodotus said the Colchians and them are the exact same people, and so on. But this is back in the pre-dynastic age, and what they refer to as Nakata I. And shortly after this period, they have found that ginger in the museum that is a blonde-haired, pale Caucasian also. And we've looked at the Nakata people and the Badarians that are there, genetics and everything, and a lot of the natural mummies that were created by the desert there still have some of their hair and so on, so their genetics show them to be definite Caucasians who apparently were in Anatolia and so on, but their genetics are what you see in Europe today. That's neither here nor there. What do y'all think about this, though? Do you think this looks like the pyramids? Because it was found way up here in Nakata in these ruins. If I understand it correctly, these ruins are gone now. They moved as many of them as they could up to higher ground, and that dam that they put in there at Aswan flooded in this whole area. The sadness of that is that this whole area looks like it was where a lot of primordial Egypt was up until way over 4000 BC. And while this man was studying this back in the 1800s, he found an elder tomb that predates all of this. And it was called Tomb 96. See if I can get a picture of it. Tomb 96, right there. And in Tomb 96, they found a bunch of pottery and stuff like that. And a lot of it wasn't decorated. A few pieces were. But then there was this egg that had made it through that. And of course, this is, they're fairly strong, but that's not something that would even take being hit by a rock or anything for any punch at all. So it makes you wonder if that's supposed to be a representation of that. And if it does, it harkens to that idea that people say the pyramids are much older. For there's no real record of them building them and so on, although they have the architect of the Great Pyramid, supposedly is Hamwinu. And some people have said that, well, that was just whenever they put the casing stones on the outside of it or did some rebuilding type of adventure. For they couldn't have built it in the time that they're talking about. And so it must have been 3/4 built as what we see today, or in some line of a step pyramid, or totally built like it was, and they just put the casing stones, which you still see here on top. There's a lot of thought to that, and when you find this oldest places, inside of here is still one of these pale Caucasian masks that they have here, and has a little chin beard on him of a coffin type set, or maybe a statue that is wood but is just disintegrating away. You can see that. Let's see if I can. Gosh, right there. Hard to see. Anyhow, so are these the pyramids that are shown on here? Is that the deal? And if that's the deal, then they predate by quite some time. You look at ancient maps that we had in ancient globes, and amazing thing is one of the earliest globes that they've found of the New World is another one of these ostrich egg maps. But you can see the seam right here through the center of it, and what they have done was taken the rounded more half of it, of two of them that are exactly the same size, grounded them down and then matched them to each other, and this has all been etched into it, kind of engraved into it. There's a few Ooparts with it also, and where it says certain things, and it distinctly says whenever you get over into the South China Sea that there be dragons, and the Indus Valley, and things along that line. But this dates to roughly 1504, they say, and it doesn't have a quite complete America on it. I don't know if they even showed the Americas here. That's the New World, and that's South America. That's Isabella, which is going to be Cuba, and then I guess it's Grand Bahamas, and just not in the right place. And there's a couple of other little islands that are on here too. But they kind of show it goes all the way through. The meeting of Panama and stuff doesn't exist, and nothing of the northern hemisphere exists. And it's actually above the equator here, so they don't have it right in the right place. But there's a metal map that they had found that has this same symbology on it. When they tested it out, here's another good look at it. When they tested it out, it looks like it's a near copy of this brass globe that they have. It's around 1508 or so too. And they're the two islands that are in question. So that's pretty neat. They've also said, well, Leonardo da Vinci made this thing because that's his exactly style of boats. And they sat and looked at this real close, and they said that he had done it and stuff. And all these other things have come and gone in the idea, and people pretty much just chalked it up as, well, isn't that odd, and set it over there on the shelf. But to many people, first of all, ostriches are odd. Kind of crazy. It's a gigantic chicken, pretty much. Emu type of creature, but even bigger. Thing can run like 45 miles an hour, and it's one of the last remnants of the dinosaurs. And their feathers were highly prized all the way from pre-dynastic times all the way through the great times of Europe and everything. You see all those hats with the plume out of it, la plume. This is the ostrich feathers that have always been so famous. And so kind of a double Oopart here, I guess you'd say, in the fact of this one that's here. But that one is kind of suspiciously been drawn apparently the moment Columbus gets back or something. So this shows you they have a little more knowledge than they're supposed to have of this whole thing, because Columbus only saw the little islands that are in the Caribbean. And so what the hell is this? But also, over here we have what looks like a spur Nile Delta and perhaps the three pyramids. And they'd probably agree with that, if not for the fact that the egg dates to over 4000 BC, and that would predate the actual dating they have for the pyramids by 1500 years. What do y'all think? Leave something down in the comments about it. I mean, do you think this is just a symbol of mountains that they have? I've shown you on pottery and stuff, and they quite often had it, and they have had some that are a little more pointy and like stuff like that in them. But some people want to say this is the earliest depiction of the pyramids, and a lot of people would go with this. Totally go with this, if it weren't for the fact that that says that that says the pyramids aren't built when the pyramids are supposed to be built. Anyhow, on to the next one, guys. Peace.